Hello, Earthlings. I created this, and with this, you can create this, or this, or any of the other stuff that your imagination allows you to. So, this is not just some boring regular runner game pack where you're controlling one character and it can collect coins only, and it doesn't have a lot of different behaviors. It's certainly not like that, because you can create crowds of entities, crowds of characters, and these characters can increase or decrease based on the gates they are passing through. Like if you pass through this plus 100 count, then you would have 220 characters that you're not just controlling one character, but instead these huge crowd. And these crowds can fight with each other as well. There might be an enemy crowd on the road, and you would fight with him. And in here, you can collect things, and they align in the line, and they move smoothly from left to right, and you try to pass through gates and collect stuff as well. You can control crowd, but that crowd can shoot projectiles. And now with that, what you can do, you can create different gates. In this case, it's a evolution gate. So if you're passing through that plus 1 year, you would evolve into something different, and this year 1 would be year 2, and that new character that you have just evolved into can shoot different projectiles. A similar concept in the car evolution, but instead of a crowd, we're controlling single car, and that single car can collect things, and he can evolve into a different vehicle, maybe a better one. It can go faster or slower depending on the vehicle that we are currently controlling. You can create something like this, which is you're controlling one character, but when you're passing through gates, you can become evil or angel, and your character might change with the transformation effects, some kind of. So if our player can, if it collects donates, then it goes greener, and if it steals, he can go more reddish colors. And this is not the fully feature, like this is not the full list, by the way. This is just the main ones that I've written down in here, but you will see a lot of things in this video and when you buy the package. I hope you like it. I'm pretty proud of it. I really love it. I think it has a clean architecture, clean code, so it's easy to extend, it's easy to understand, and I worked really hard to make something good. And yeah, that's it. So we can dive into the main concepts first, and then we can take a look at the things in Unity. And we are not going to start with this population manager, but instead this guy, player. So this is just a component root that you add to your player object. You just add this, add the dependencies, and forget it. It doesn't do anything else. Like it certainly is doing something, but you don't really need to concern too much about. You just add it, and this is the entry point for your player, right? Some of the crucial scripts uses this as the main connection point. But after the player, we have population manager. This guy have two derived types. One is crowd manager and the other one is stack manager. And with these two, I think you can create 99% of all the runner and runner-ish games. Crowd is essentially a group of objects that tries to group up in the centroid, in the center point. And the stack manager is just a one straight line. They align, all of them align in a perfect position. They try to align via smooth movement, right? They are not rigid. Just remember the coffee stack games. They smoothly tries to stay on the line, and it looks nice, it feels nice. And these are two essential things that you're going to choose one of them, right? I haven't found a situation where you would use both of them at the same time, so you are going to choose either this one, crowd manager, or the stack manager one, and you will add this components to the player object as well. And the other thing is, and this is quite awesome, modifier and modifiables. So these guys, this modifier guy, you are going to add this to the player object too, right? So you have player components, population manager, any one of them, and the modifier. And you will see that we have a lot of modifier, and you can create your own custom modifiers as well. And these modifiers they allow us to communicate with the modifiables and do stuff to these guys, right? You can say, hey, modifier, modify the modifiable scale, for example. And this modifier then, okay, I have a reference to all these modifiables. I'm going to scale them up or down, right? Shrink or grow. And you might say, hey, modifier, level up all the modifiables. And if you have a level upper modifier, this level upper modifier will call the methods on the modifiables, and these modifiables will be a level up modifiable, and it will call modify methods on those things. And this modify method will be a custom method, right? You have implemented, and you are going to use that one. And with this approach, you can create a whole lot of crazy things like transformation modifiables, like shrink it up and down, maybe add some shader effect, and you can control the shader parameter. You would just need to create one modifiable and one modifier, and you would add that modifiable to the objects, characters. Let's say you are making a crowd manager game, right? I've added the crowd manager. Oh, sorry, you are making a count master, and you have added the crowd manager components. And then the prefab of individual characters in the count master, you would add modifiable to them, and then this guy can say something to, let's say, hundreds of modifiables if you have collected the hundreds characters in the count master. And yeah, these three things are the main concepts behind the runner starter kit. And let me go to Unity now. We are going to start with the Foodmaster game. Let's see the gameplay first, then we can talk about it later. You can see this one in the demo games that I've mentioned in the store page, but after you buy this package, you can access it via this path. And we are making a hamburger basically. You start with the bread, and then you add meat on top, and then cheese as well. And let's see how this works. We can start with the player, and keep in mind the essential concepts that I've just shown to you. And you can see that this guy has a player script, and as I said, it's a composition root, and everything starts with this. It has few dependencies like runner, mover, and population manager, but after giving those dependencies, you can add other things like runner mover. It's the same thing that we are using in every game, but with different parameters. I'm not going to explain this. You can see the example games and check out how you can modify and make your own runner mover just by changing these small values. And there's a stack manager. This guy, as you can remember, it's based on the population manager, and this guy allows us to create objects that line up together in a straight line formation. And I'm not going to explain the parameters as well. In here you can see other game coffee stack, for example, to check out its parameters and how things change. There's also let me see whether I wrote down tooltips or not. Okay, so if the field name is easy to understand, then I'm not writing down any tooltip on it. So in this case, these guys don't have any tooltip. This guy have one, and it's basically allows us to create things, characters, objects, whatever we are collecting and using. And we can depopulate 1, populate 10. As you can see, it's working like this. And there's an other script in here called transformation modifier. And from the main concept, this allows us to change the objects. And let's see how this works. So in order to understand how this works, we need to go to the object that we are collecting, and it's in here, populated entity prefab. This guy is what we are instantiating when we start the scene first, and you can see that it has a bunch of game objects under the visuals, and 3 of them is disabled, and this one is only the active one. And this guy also has a script called populated entity. It's also somewhat composition root. It works like that. We generally don't fiddle too much with this, but instead what we are going to do is we will work on top of it and add some modifiables on top of the populated entities. And in this case, it's transformation modifiable. And you add the different renders in here, and this guy is just, it has some methods in it, and by using those methods we can enable and disable these guys, and by doing that we are essentially making a hamburger, as you can see in here. And the problem is we might have thousands of these hamburgers, right? How are we going to reach all of them and transform them into a hamburger? That's where this modifier shines. When we collect something via these managers, whether it's a crowd manager or stack manager, we get these modifiers gets the appropriate scripts that needs, in this case the modifiable. They get the references of those. So if you have 1,000 of hamburgers, this guy will also have 1,000 of transformation modifiable script reference, thousands of it in the script, so it can access all of the objects and transform them. It's the same idea that works with different things as well, and I can show you a different version of it. Let's see this one. Okay, nice. So this is the evolution of crowds, and it has similar mechanics, but we have something more as well. We can change as in the Footmaster, but we are also spawning projectiles, right? And these projectiles dealing damage, And with how can we do that? So the idea from the modifier is that we can do stuff to the modifiables, right? And these all have a modifiable in it, and one of them is projectile shooter modifiable. So what we can do is we can say that, okay guys, in this interval, in this time period, shoot one projectile, and every entity in here have a projectile shooter modifiable, and it access another script which is projectile shooter. Why we are doing that? Because this guy is just a one entity, but it can become pirates, and we need to scale this guy up. And are there any issues right now? I'm not sure what's happening. Oh yeah, okay. So this guy can become pirate, cowboy, and so on, and every one of them shoots different projectile, right? How are we going to define that? We can do that by adding the projectile shooter scripts on all the models, and all of them have a different reference to these guys, these projectile pools, right? This cowboy, I think they are shooting carrot. This soldier can shoot bullets, bazooka, I don't know. And every projectile can have is the templates of the projectile. By the way, you might use something similar like this. It has a rigid body and sphere collider with the trigger enabled, and you just add the projectile script, and it has speed and hit damage. With those two things, you can do some crazy stuff, I guess. And we have animation modifiable as well. I'm using animation and animator at the same time. If you are doing some stuff on a large group of entity, then animation has a lower performance overhead, so it's better fit in there. But if it's lower in the amount, but you need higher control, like layers and blend trees maybe, then animator is perfect sense in it fits perfect in that context. So in this case, we can have like hundreds of characters, so animation fits in here better. And we have animation modifiable. What this guy is doing is it has a reference in here, and we are controlling these animation parameters, and there are like 3 animations in here. So we can, when we can we stop? We can't stop, but if we could have, then like it's as simple as can control forwards. I guess it should work now. Yeah. And as you can see, we can stop, and when we are stopping, they play the idle animation. They are breathing, they are moving a little bit, and that's because we have an animation modifier, and we just gave the parameter names: idle animation, run, and jump animation. You can increase, decrease these animation parameters as well, and these guys can get the method calls from the animation modifier, and changes the current active entity, which is this guy in this case. So don't get wrong by these default animation. The default animation is what are we going to use when we first instantiate the character, and afterwards, if it transforms to a different character, like cowboy for example, this new cowboy animation component is registered in here, animation modifiable, so we can control the new animation instead of the old one. That's the main concept behind this one. And it's pretty easy to extend. The modifier and modifiable pairs is quite easy to extend, and I think I'm going to make some updates on that. I will add some new modifiers and modifiables pair, so you can see the full potential of this pack, I guess. So let's keep going, and we have gates. Gates have different features, but the all of them has the same collectible script. You can see this collectible in different things. It's not just about in the gates. We also use that in evolution of cars. In this guys, for example, they are also collectible. What this collectible does is when you collect it, when you enter this trigger area, it disables this game object or destroys it. I can't really remember, but you can change the behavior, and it applies the effects. Right now we have only one effect, but imagine that you can create let's say population effect as well. It's still not too much right now. We have collectible population and transformation. We have 3 effects right now, but we can change this. We can add new effects to the collectibles as well. So these collectibles is it's a nice way to add behavior to your collectibles, and we are using it in here. For example, these guys transforms our object, in this case our car, right? When you pick this one, it goes into a newer model. There's a toggle use direct transformation, and if you are using this, what will happen is instead of adding some abstract experience, you are concretely increasing the level, and you can make sure that it will level up to a higher object. But in this case, it's an experience, right? And you have a threshold, which is here, and it's referenced in the transformation modifier. So we are internally keeping our experience point, and this 10 year might or might not allows us to pass some threshold and transform into a different model, different object, right? And because of that, we are also using transformation level monitor with the monitoring experience instead of the level. So when we play this guy, and let's pick the 20 level plus, as you can see, it's 1940 right now, and 1940 is enough to pass this threshold. That's why we are transformed into this guy. And I'm not sure whether it would work, but let's try. Can we do this and change the monitoring to the level? No. So I think it's doing the initializing stuff on the awake or start, and you can't change it in the runtime afterwards. But as you can see, it's 1970. We are close enough to 1990, and we grab this guy. We can grab this one as well, and tada, we're transformed. And with every transformation, we have a different movement speed, and this move speed definition does that, all of this stuff. So when you enable new object, it changes our player's movement speed with this value. So in tractor it's 16, right? So that means our runner mover forward move speed is 16 now, as you can see. It's that simple. And yeah, we can die as well. You wouldn't maybe I think you wouldn't want that feature in this game. So we have here, these guys are also transformation effect. It adds 5 experience points. We have counts in master of counts. Don't say please. Let's see. Yeah. So in Master of Counts, we have something similar. We have these gates, they have collectible, but they have population effects. And you can specify the increase amount. You can use multiply instead of direct manipulation, like directly adding. You can do multiplication as well in here, but we are not going to do that, right? So go back, please. And this is multiplying. And we have something called crowd manager. This is the different thing to compare to the stack manager. This doesn't align people in a straight line. We are more like a crowd behavior. We are doing some crowdy thing in here. And we are monitoring the population count via population count monitor. And we have an enemy crowd as well. They have the crowd manager, but they have a battle area trigger as well. So battle area trigger says to the crowd manager, spawn me 80 entity, and we are specifying the entity in here just as the regular crowd manager. And when the enemy, when our player enters this trigger area, which is in here, let me disable the lighting. And if this guy enters here, we are spawning this battle area prefab. You can customize this guy. It just spawns and the fight begins in here. And it has a few parameters. This is not a parameter, this is a dependency. Actually, you need to specify the visuals model object. But we have this battling entity move speed. You can control this. You can create different battle areas, and every one of them can have a different ground. Some of them maybe have a sand, and in sand characters can move slowly. In other places they can go fast. You can control it in here. And we have jump area. This jump trigger, if our characters touches this area, this volume, then they will jump to 4 meters high for this duration, this time period. Let's see one more thing. Stack of coffee. Okay. As you can guess, this guy uses a stack manager, and it has transformation modifier as well, because we are this half-eaten meats transforms into complete, like full meat. I don't know how to describe this meat, but you can create, like, you can change these parameters to have a different effect. Like we can start it 15, and for the maximum population count we can set it to 50. So we start with 15. As you can see, we can populate to 15 maximum, right? Because that's what we have set in here. But I think 55 for this level is enough. It's better. We have this guy. It has this box collider trigger area, and it's a transformation single. So this is different. We have like this might seem familiar with the transformation modifier, transformation effect, but there is a one big difference. This guy can transform individual entities instead of whole group at once. So this is what we want, right? When we put the when our meat touches here, we want individual of them to transform, not all of them. So you use transformation single in this case to have that effect. And these guys have a trigger collider and twin rotator, which is a small script that allows us to rotate something, move something. For moving, there's a script called twin mover. Yeah, you can use that to move, and twin rotator to rotate something. And this guy have a script called populated end to obstacle. It has two types. Obstacle type, kill, makes the objects disappear. They basically kill it. Has limited life, is quite useful in some areas, like but before showing that, let me show you this one thing as well. This is Abyss, and we have two colliders in it. One box collider for this box collider helps us to not fall down our player object, but we want the things that we are collected fall down, right? So this inner box has a trigger area, and when objects touches here, we spawn new object and make them fall down, and the original object will disappear. And this guy, obstacle type, when you set it to Abyss, you can do that. It automatically do that. Like, it automatically creates instantiates new object and make them fall down, and your original collected guy can disappear. And for the limited life thing, I have an example that demonstrates this nicely, I guess, which is this one. These damageable entities, they have health. You can kill these guys with the projectiles that you throw, right? So these pirates, oh, they're cowboy now, and soldier. Okay, so these soldiers, they shoot these things. They are not bullets or bazooka, but they have a projectile script which defines its speed and hit damage. And these guys have health, and these guys also have obstacle type kill, which has limited life enabled, and hit count before destroyed 5. What it's doing is he can kill 5 of our characters before dying, right? So as you can see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 of our characters died because of that guy, but then he lost his health as well. You can make it kill infinite amount of people by unchecking this one, and it has blink feedback as well. When he gets hits, it blinks for this duration, this amount of time, and with this color thing. It's also quite useful. And what I would suggest, I'm not going to look at and explain every component, every parameter. I'm trying to, some of the codes have I think all the public methods have comments on it. If the variable name is not descriptive enough, I make sure that I made sure that I comment it and write down some tooltip for them. And if you are still having problem, I would suggest you to look at the example games. Like, we have a lot of example games in here. And even then, if you are still struggling, I am quite active in the Discord server. You can find me, the other guys, other developers who are using these packages. We are talking, chatting about some game stuff. So you can come in and ask questions. I think I've made something quite nice. I'm not saying it because I made it, but it's clean. It has a nice functionality, and it extends greatly. Like, this is very basic version of it. I believe, like, I haven't created a lot of modifiers, I haven't created a lot of effects, but I just create fundamentals, the foundation. But I'm going to add on top of it with newer updates. That so because of that, I'm also open for feedbacks from you, what you want to see next. And yeah, hope you like it. Thanks for purchasing and watching, and see you later in the next update.